everybody, it's John for mtgotavern coming at you with another Burn League, this time with a little bit of an alteration of the Boros Burn list that we've been working on recently. As a friendly reminder, if you do like modern content, especially of the red-based variety, whether it be Burn or Prowess, please consider subscribing to the channel, as we aim to be the most informative lightning bolt-based channel for modern on YouTube. So, a little bit of changes to the list we've been running. The core list is remaining the same. The only change in the main deck that we're running is trimming one copy of Searing Blaze for a third copy of Lightning Helix. It could just as easily be Skullcrack or something along those lines, as there's noticeably been an uptick recently in decks like Death Shadow and stuff, where Searing Blaze is a little bit less effective. Sure, it has some targets. Sometimes you can get a Scourge early on. Sometimes you can get a Hex Drinker. Sometimes you can get a small Tarmogoyf. But most of the time, this card is much better when you're leveraging it against decks like Heliod, or Elves, or other tribal decks like Humans, Mirror Matches, Prowess decks, etc., which have been on a little bit of a decline. So, other than that, you have your main core, Goblin Guide, Swiftspear Eidolon, 4 bolts, 4 spikes, 4 Boros Charms, going with the 3-3 split on Helix and Searing Blaze, 2 Skullcracks, and then the 4 Rift Bolt, 4 Skewer. Still running 20 lands, 4 copies of Sunbay Canyon. Maybe we should be running Fiery Islet, really kind of hard to say, although I have noticed taking quite a bit of damage in a lot of matches lately, so I'm a little bit hesitant to run the 5th Pain Land. Changed around the sideboard a little bit. We cut down to 3 Path to Exile. It's definitely a tremendous asset against Death Shadow and such, but I have noticed a lot of times getting flooded on it, especially against like decks like Jund and stuff. So we're kind of adding another utility piece in like a 1-of Deflecting Palm. It's kind of a hard card to play around, especially the first one. Second one obviously has a little bit of diminishing returns, but it does put the fear of dying in your opponent, especially when they're hitting you with big Scourges and big Death Shadows, big Tarmogoyfs, so I figure it's a decent time to bring one of those back. 3 copies of Relic. Once again, if you're expecting Dredge or Upsal spells, which is still in some surviving variant thanks to Sodek and some other people, Rest in Peace is probably a better option, or split on Tormod's Crypt and Rest in Peace. I like Relic against the mid-range value decks. Used to be very good against the Uro decks and such. Now it's okay against blue-white control and such, because of Snapcaster range. It's also decent against the Lurrus decks, especially if you're expecting the games to go a little bit longer. Down to 2 copies of Core Firewalker. I know as soon as I cut these cards, I'm going to run into like 2 or 3 mirror matches in this league. But overall, haven't had a lot of reason to play Core Firewalker. I think the most important matchup we've played against them in Elite recently was Goblins, and that's definitely not a good card in that matchup. Down to 2 Roiling Vortex. Once again, reasonable card against Control, reasonable card against Life Gain. Okay against something like Heliod Company, but not a whole lot of decks running around with playing a bunch of free spells or anything like that, so Roiling Vortex a little bit on the downtick, other than obviously against Heliod. 1 copy of Searing Blood to have a little bit more utility against other creature decks, especially the smaller ones, as I did go down the 4th copy of Blaze. Maybe it should be the 4th Blaze, but I like having a little bit of variety. 3rd copy of Skullcrack when you need a little more anti-life gain tech, and then obviously 2 copies of Wear Tear here. A lot of people are going to say I should be playing Smash or Smithereens. I'm still liking the utility right now. So that said, let's get into today's match. Here for today's match, we're on the draw against a Lurrus deck, no less. No lander, can't keep it, unfortunately. This hand's pretty miserable against the Lurrus deck, but I still think we keep it. Put back either the Arid Mesa or one of the Inspiring Vantages here. Against the Lurrus deck, I think I'm much more inclined to put the fetch land back so they can't turn on their Scourges. At least not early enough anyway. So, looks like we might be up against the Delver Shadow variant that was running around. Thoughtseize. Presumably taking a Boros Charm here. Yep. Just go ahead and suspend the Rift Bolt here. Casting Shock on themselves, probably taking Lightning Helix. We'll just use this to kill the dash shadow, kill the dash shadow. So obviously a little bit risky to do this main phase, but I don't want them to hit us with a soft stub. Okay. Can we draw the lethal burn spell? We can. And put a bolt to the face. So Luris means they're not on traditional Grixis, if they're even on Grixis. Means they're probably on the Delver, Death Shadow, Scourge variant. Deep Home's decent in that spot. Path Exile's decent in that spot. Skullcrack could be okay. Could potentially bring in relics. First card out is probably these Searing Blazes. Yes, it can potentially kill Delver if they're even running that, and yes, it can potentially kill Luris, but still, beyond that, I think I cut 2 spikes potentially. Do that. I'll be back in. Let me look at this hand. Can't really keep the 4-lander. 1, 2, 3, 4 lands again. Keep back the fetch land. Not the most ideal hands to open the proceedings with. Delver. Yep. Proceed to hand them the land. Okay, they flip it with a Serum Visions. Sure. One on top and one on bottom. Guess if you're going to draw a card, Eidolon is a decent one to do it with. Doubt they have basic mountain in their deck, so this one's going to cost them some damage. Okay. So could attack, put them to 6 and then 2. That doesn't seem like a good idea. So I guess we hope to draw another Boros charm, and that they don't have Stubborn to Know. Deflecting Palm will also be an acceptable draw. You have the Stubborn Denial, or... Yep, of course you do. No reason to attack here. Visions. On top, one on bottom. Bolt the face. All right. They had everything covered. Gotcha. Definitely not worried about Relic. Place is only good against Delver. Like, it's legitimately only good against Delver. Now we have the opposite problem. Still think keep this hand. Problem is we're dealing ourselves damage for their Scourge. Feel like we're gonna get discard spelled here. Okay. Main phase that path so we don't get hit by any type of stubborn denial or any of that kind of shenanigans. Pass through the turn. That's a pretty good one. Yep. Kind of a difficult loss, but that's what happens when Grixis Shadow's at its best.